So most of our audience are, currently having the issues with, and that is what people would like to know as well. Type 2 diabetes, because when we talk about the other diabetes, it's very subjective to an individual.
We would say there is no exercise that is great and one exercise that's really bad should never do that. The best exercise for us is the one that we can keep on doing every day or at least 5 days a week. You like tennis? Play it. You like walking? Do it. You like swimming, cycling, whatever you like, do it, because the best exercise is the exercise you do regularly.
Another thing about meditation is, like, once you start practicing, you need to be consistent and regular, because in order to get the impact of meditation onto your body, it has to be done in a regular manner.
Has the stress level gone up, or has our ability to deal with stressful situations gone down? Veggies. Vegetables are really, really, really essential. You have to have minimum 5 types of vegetables in your diet every single day. Okay, and I'm not talking about chopping them up and frying them and putting a lot of masalas and cooking a proper Indian type of curry and lose out everything that beautiful vegetable has in it and think, I've eaten vegetable. But fruits are really great for diabetic patients as well.
All kind of fruits, or are they like specific?
Fruits. So, the really sugary fruit.
Mango.
Is your favorite? Well, at least we don't have mango season here.
Yeah.
In India, everyone eats like 10 mangoes a day in the season. And all my diabetic patients in India used to come with like really high sugars after the mango season.
But what we should do as a parent for our kids, so that they don't suffer the same situation which we are doing now. Kids love chocolates, kids love sugar candies, and so many other things which can be harmful at later stage. And I'm sure a lot of our audience would like to know this as well, because we can't stop. We just have to kids are crying, let's give them something or the other just to keep them happy. So what would you like to say, how we can control the eating habits of our kids? One thing I'm really confused, and I'm sure a lot of our audience would like to know that as well. When we talk about insulin resistance, right, that insulin resistance is causing the absorption of sugar, and that body is producing enough insulin. Now, I saw some of the videos where you have to do certain exercise to increase the working of pancreas so that they can release more insulin. Now, when we talk about this, so somehow I feel that this contradicts the concept of insulin resistance, that your body is producing low insulin, because that shows that your body is producing low insulin, and you do certain yoga asanas or you do certain exercise so that your body can produce more insulin. So, but the resistance will still be there. So even if your body is producing more insulin, it will not help. So what would you like to say about this theory? जय श्री कृष्ण, राधे राधे। राधे राधे। आज हमारे साथ बहुत ही स्पेशल गेस्ट हैं डॉक्टर चित्रा। ये डॉक्टर भी हैं और शी इज़ वेरी स्पिरिचुअल एज वेल, एंड एट द सेम टाइम शी डज लॉट ऑफ क्लासेस फॉर किड्स. She is a firm believer of Lord Krishna, and she has been practicing spirituality since her childhood. So today we will talk about the current health issues we all face, like diabetes, blood pressure, and cancer. Cancer is becoming quite big now, and so we will talk about these medical issues. At the same time, we'll try to see how spirituality can help us in controlling these medical conditions, and also in curing, and on top of that, even preventing as well, if we start taking certain measures well in advance. So what I would say, you can keep your notebook handy and start noting down as well, some of the tips which we'll be talking in today's session. So let's start today's session. So hello, Dr. Chitra, how are you?
I'm very well, Mamit.
Welcome to our show, Mamit Agarwal Show. And I'm really excited because I myself has diabetes, and to be honest, it's been like 5-6 years now, and I'm still trying to find ways how I can, reverse it. Although, something is working for me and something is not. So I'm very curious about today's session. So let's talk about diabetes, Chitraji. So what diabetes is? Is it like a body disorder? Is it like something which we inherit from our, um, earlier generation, or is it like, the incorrect eating habits? What diabetes is and what it does to our body?
Lovely. That's a very good question. First of all, I should say thank you very much for having me on your show. And I'm really impressed with your efforts to help people with topics that are close to their hearts, topics that have impact on their lives, whether it's health or spirituality. So it's physical body and the mind. They go together.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we know, physical well-being impacts mental well-being, and mental well-being impacts physical well-being. So the connection of spirituality, which you referred to earlier. So thank you very much for having me. Let's come to diabetes. Diabetes is a topic that is very close to my heart as well. I'm very passionate about diabetes for a long time. So I'm a general practitioner, or consultant in general practice is our new title. We've been working in the NHS in the UK for around 24 years now. And after qualifying as a GP, I did further studies on diabetes, the further qualification in diabetes. And I worked with really good people in diabetes and learned a lot about it. One of them is Professor Taylor. You might have heard about him. He came up with the very low-calorie diet, which became sort of a reference point to the now National Diabetes Prevention Program, which has been rolled out nationally. And a lot of his research and things have been pivotal into all of this. So diabetes is very, very interesting. It's very prevalent as well. So probably we see it in every 1 to 10 or 1 to 15 people.
I think it is in fact more common than, when I see the stats, it's like 1 in 6, I would say. A lot of time we don't realize or we don't test ourselves, but we are diabetic and we don't know.
Yes, that's also true. A lot of times diabetes can be there for a while before actually you realize the symptoms of diabetes. So the main types of diabetes that most people know about are type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 we generally see in younger children, and it's mainly because the gland in our abdomen called pancreas that secretes insulin, the hormone that's the main hormone in diabetes. If the pancreas is not working well and our body doesn't have enough insulin, then we get type 1 diabetes. And there's a big genetic element to it. So it tends to be running in the family, starts at young age. There's not much of lifestyle related issue there. Even if you were a very healthy child, you could still get it.
So in other ways, I can say that it's like a pre-existing condition in our body at the time of birth, it exists or it develops at a very early age.
Yeah, it's in your genes.
Right.
It's genetic.
Okay.
And because the pancreas is not working well and there's not much insulin around, those patients go on insulin injections more or less straight away.
Right, gotcha.
So they don't really go on tablets. And then that brings us to the second type of diabetes, which is type 2 diabetes, which we very commonly refer to as diabetes.
Yeah.
Because majority of the people around are type 2 diabetics. That's the larger number of people with type 2 diabetes. And that is the one where you can do a lot of things to A, not get it, or delay the onset of it, or if you did get it, to have a real good control so the complications are minimized or avoided in long term. So that is called type 2 diabetes. So in this one, it's a complex one.
Right.
Multifactorial. And in this one, you can say the insulin is there in your body. So you're like at the door. You need to get inside. The insulin's there, but the key is not working very well. So there is resistance to this insulin to utilize for the purpose it's meant to be. So we probably have enough insulin there, but our body has certain factors that are making our body resistant to the insulin available. So it creates an artificial scenario as if, we don't really have enough insulin. So the sugar is going high, and hence we then have the diabetes. Essentially, diabetes diagnosis means your blood sugar levels are slightly higher than where the normal range would be, where the risk of complications is lower. So it's a cutoff that the World Health bodies have come up with. It's a number, imaginary number. It has never been the same number forever. It currently that number set at 6.5%. Or in old terms, this is in the old terms and percentages. Or now the newer terms, it would be 48 millimoles per mole. This is your HbA1c, which is the average of your sugar and over the past 3 months in your blood. So that's what we call diabetes, raised blood glucose, essentially.
I think we'll come on the HbA1c later on, because I'm quite curious to know how, just with my blood test, they can identify the past 3 months of records, what's happening within my body. So that is something I'm quite curious about, but we'll come on to that topic. So if I simplify what you have said, is like, anything we eat which release sugar, it goes into the blood, and eventually that sugar is in the blood, which needs to be absorbed by the cells within ourselves, right? And those cells use that sugar for various activities. Now what happens is, like with the insulin resistance, those cells are not able to absorb the sugar because there is a lock which insulin can't open because of the insulin resistance. So when they open that lock, so eventually we think that we have low insulin or lack of insulin, that it's not enough for for the cells to absorb the sugar. And because cell is not able to absorb the sugar keeps circulating within the blood, and then when we measure it, the blood sugar level goes high. So is that
the simpler way of putting it? Yeah, I think it's a very simpler way of putting things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's also other types of diabetes, which we don't really need to go into now, because, for example, if somebody had an injury to the pancreas, for example,
right,
and the pancreas is not working now, then they would have secondary diabetes as a result of pancreatitis, for example.
Right.
Some people might get diabetes as a result of some medications, for example. So there can be a variety of reasons. And there are also other types of diabetes, like MODY, it's called maturity onset diabetes of young people, MODY. So there's various different types of diabetes as well. But I think if we're talking to common people, who want to just know about type 2 diabetes, it's probably best to
Yeah.
stick to type 2
Yeah.
diabetes. And just when we are saying diabetes in our, discussions here on, just maybe understand that we are talking about the standard common type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
So what do
So
you
I
say
think
that's
that's what most of our audience are, currently having the issues with, and that is what people would like to know as well. Type 2 diabetes, because when we talk about the other diabetes, it's very subjective to an individual, which again, I mean, based on their medical advice, they can uh, do the right treatment.
There's
So,
a smaller number of people who get the other types of
right,
diabetes as well.
okay,
So the common is
is
type
type
2.
2. So when we talk about type 2, Chitraji, obviously we have spoken how insulin resistance can stop, cells to absorb sugar. Now, how does stress impacts this process of sugar absorption by cells? Or is it like it increases the insulin resistance, or it stops the body to produce insulin, or it affects the cells to absorb the blood sugar? So how stress can actually...
So stress actually increases the levels of corticosteroids in our body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a gland on top of our kidneys that secretes steroids.
Okay.
So whenever our body goes through a stressful period, whether it's a physical stress of a illness, for
Mm-hmm.
example, or injury, or a psychological stress, it will treat it as a stress
Mm-hmm.
and will release steroids.
Mm.
So it's the steroids that will increase the insulin resistance.
Okay.
And so that's why sometimes if a person has a very bad illness and they check their blood glucose in the hospital, it may be in the diabetic range. And the hospital will tell your GP to repeat it once you're better, because a lot of times the sugars will go back to where they need to be.
Mm.
This is how big an impact the steroid is.
Right. Oh. So, and when you say stress, obviously we all are living in this world where we are constantly being burdened with our, work life, family life. So stress, if I say, oh, you need to be calm, I don't think I'm right in saying that when we consider today's world. So we all have stress, one stress or the other. So considering the stress level, what exactly we can do to minimize the impact of that stress within our body?
To minimize the impact of stress, I think there are two facets to it. One, we need to do something to reduce that stress in itself. So you take away the stress, the impact will be lower. But if you can't take away the stress for some reason or can't reduce it, then you can improve your fitness levels to be able to cope with the stress or the steroids better, for example. So what would I do to reduce my stress levels? And the things that science has now proven with brain scans and longitudinal studies, meta-analysis, and randomized controlled blinded trials. And some studies have been done over decades, and they've been done by various centers over the world. And we all now know that meditation lowers the level of stress. So meditation is a very key element that we can introduce in our daily routine. Even if it's for a few minutes of being conscious a day and conscious awareness, increasing it to as much as you can, half an hour, whatever you can fit in to your day. Treat it as your exercise, for example, or medicine, for example, because this is going to help you in the long term in a lot of things, not just diabetes and stress, because stress will increase the blood pressure, it can increase your risk of heart diseases, stroke, lots of other problems as well. So meditation is very, very good. It's now proven with science. Science has proven that it does reduce your stress and help.
Recently, we had the Global Meditation Day as well. So meditation has been accepted globally now.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very, I wouldn't say easy, but it is a very effective way, and it is something which we all can practice, provided we are committed towards it. And another thing about meditation is, like, once you start practicing, you need to be consistent and regular, because in order to get the impact of meditation onto your body, it has to be, like, done in a regular manner.
I think it's a very, very welcome step that we have a meditation day which recognizes its importance. And like you said, there's a worldwide recognition now. When decades ago, this smoking started in England, it was thought to be a good thing to do. And people didn't blink their eyes when they smoked. But only when the evidence came forward that it's actually dangerous, it kills people, it causes cancer, and lots of other problems, the whole thing shifted. And as a doctor now, if I even just ask my patient, do you smoke? It's almost as if like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, it kind of feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to stop, doctor. I've tried really hard, doctor. So everyone knows that it's not the right thing to do. Whereas when it started decades ago, that awareness was not there. So a lot of it is about awareness and knowing the importance. Now that we all know the importance of meditation, it's now been introduced in schools. It's now been introduced in various offices. Everywhere there is more resources now, online platforms, live face-to-face training.
I think every city has some few meditation centers. There's even the gym have started doing yoga and meditation sessions within the gym as well. Yeah. So let's come back to our type 2 diabetes discussion. So one thing I'm really confused, and I'm sure a lot of our audience would like to know that as well. When we talk about insulin resistance, right, that insulin resistance is causing the absorption of sugar, and that body is producing enough insulin. Now, I saw some of the videos where you have to do certain exercise to increase the working of pancreas so that they can release more insulin. Now, when we talk about this, so somehow I feel that this contradicts the concept of insulin resistance, that, your body is producing low insulin, because that shows that your body is producing low insulin, and you do certain yoga asanas or you do certain exercise so that your body can produce more insulin. So, but the resistance will still be there. So even if your body is producing more insulin, it will not help. So what would you like to say about this theory?
Okay, so I think we have to understand it slightly differently. There is insulin resistance in type 2, but for example, you have type 2 now, okay? You have a certain reserve of insulin in your body, the pancreatic and islet cells, okay? Every time you eat, to utilize that sugar and put it into the right place, your body has to inject certain amount of insulin. The pancreas has to inject certain amount of insulin into your blood.
Mm-hmm.
Our body is very intelligent. We have something called as homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping everything at pH at the right temperature, our body temperature at the right temperature, our body sugar, everything's maintained in that homeostatic range. Mm-hmm. So when I eat, my pancreas gives me just enough insulin so that I don't go low, so my sugars don't go too low, and they're not too high.
Mm-hmm.
Gives me exact amounts of insulin. But because of the resistance, your body is giving more to get the same effect.
Right.
So you do run out of it sooner. Okay? So that is one of the reasons. There are some medications that will also help your pancreas to produce more insulin or release insulin in response to the stimuli, food and all that. So they can also make your pancreatic insulin run out sooner. So this is talking about later on during the course of the illness. So there's two elements. There is resistance, but there you may essentially also become short of insulin.
Right.
Yeah.
So if
initially there is resistance. The exercise helps in various ways. Okay. Exercise definitely reduces insulin resistance and improves the utilization of the insulin better, and then the sugar is distributed better. But there are certain exercises that are targeted towards the pancreas to help it release more insulin if there's a problem with that kind of thing. Just like some medications will do that. So I think they go hand in hand in a way. I don't think they will cause any harm, those exercises, because any exercise essentially also reduces your insulin resistance. So it's good.
Okay.
We would say there is no exercise that is great and one exercise that's really bad should never do that. The best exercise for us is the one that we can keep on doing every day or at least 5 days a week. You like tennis? Play it. You like walking? Do it. You like swimming, cycling, whatever you like, do it, because the best exercise is the exercise you do regularly. Regularity is the key. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah. No, very true. I think that is something we all would like to, look into, because a lot of time we try, when we are motivated, we try to do so many different things, and eventually we without realizing that, oh, how much time we are spending or how much time we can afford. And then eventually we can't continue for long. And then again, we are back to the same position. So when we talk about releasing extra insulin by pancreas, do you think, does that affect the functioning of the pancreas in long term, or is it like the pancreas are healthy enough to keep producing extra insulin throughout your life?
Just like I said earlier, it will run out.
Yeah, okay. So we need to somehow try to control. And when we talk about insulin resistance, what are the causes of insulin resistance? So if you can explain us a bit more about the mechanism uh, of this insulin resistance in a much simpler way, because a lot of our audience
Yeah.
they definitely would like to know more about this resistance thing.
Yeah. I think it's probably best to just discuss it as causes of type 2 diabetes, or what brings it on sooner, rather than sticking to one element of it. Again, like I said, it's multifactorial. There is also a genetic element to type 2 diabetes. So if you have a family history, you're at increased risk. Your lifestyle is very important. If you're leading a sedentary lifestyle, no exercise, you're at increased risk. If you're eating the wrong type of food or wrong quantities or at wrong times, you're at increased risk. If you're overweight or obese, you're at increased risk. If you're doing a job or have a family life that's stressful, you're at increased risk. So these are the key things, I think. Family history, obesity, diet, exercise, and stress, which stress could incorporate all the other things like sleep and all sorts, yeah? They will all increase your risk of diabetes.
Right.
And when we calculate individuals' risk of diabetes, we put all of these things into calculation.
Okay.
So we put the weight, ethnicity, family history, everything into the calculator to figure out someone's risk of diabetes as opposed to normal population.
So if we talk about our current lifestyle, honestly speaking, we are a lot more dependent on packed food, whether we want or we don't want, we can't ignore that. That has become a part of our life, right? Second is when we talk about stress, again, the stress has gone up multifold. So if you compare, like, 50 years back and now, and I think technology has played a very, very important role in, like, increasing the stress level. And
Has the stress level gone up, or has our ability to deal with stressful situations gone down?
I would say both. I would say both, because our requirements, if you see in, like, 50 years back, our requirements were very limited, and we tend to be happy in whatever we have. Whereas now, even if we have everything, we still tend to be, like, worried and concerned about things which we don't have. Or
I think
so,
that's the key thing. I think it's not just that the stress levels has gone up, it's also that our ability to deal with the stress has gone down significantly. If I look back and compare myself with my parents, my grandparents, and the situations, the stressful times they've been through, I feel they had immense patience, immense tolerance. Their ability to cope with stress was a world different
mm,
to what I see in England, for example, coming from a, Indian village background where the lives are much more laid back and happy.
no, that's true. And that is the reason why we all would like to, we encourage people to go and, get involved in spirituality, at least, dedicate 1 hour of their every day into meditation, doing some yoga and other stuff, because I'm definitely sure that, it'll help you, not just in diabetes, but in a lot of other disease, which will come in soon. And when we talk about, again, going back to your answer about the food habits, okay, and exercise, and obviously stress is one thing. So when how should we, uh, you know what is there anything, like, we can try taking on a regular basis, just to, like, small things which can help us in improving? Even, I mean, I am considering that we cannot avoid outside food, we cannot avoid, like, oily food. We can obviously reduce the portions or reduce the frequency, but we cannot avoid. So what can we do, like, just to balance it out?
Okay. I think it's a very good question. Diet and exercise. Exercise is brief, so I'll quickly do that first. It is, like I said, there is not one exercise that's the best and one exercise that's the worst. And it's very important to understand that, because some people get focused on thinking, oh, this is a good exercise for diabetes, but I'm really not into that. And then they try to do it and it doesn't really work out. And then they don't end up doing nothing. And that's, I think, not helpful. Whatever, even if you take a few steps a day, whatever you're doing currently, increase your exercise levels from there, increase your activity levels from there, whatever you're doing. If it's a sitting job, get a standing desk, have a step thing under your table to do it while you're, typing away your emails or something. If you have to make a long phone call, start walking in the room up and down while you're on that phone call. If you have a friend coming home for a chat, go out, put the jacket on, and talk to your friend while you're walking a few steps. If you live in a house like mine with stairs, go down, up and down for no reason 10 times a day or 20, whatever. Just do it as part of your life. Just increase the activity whenever you can, whatever exercise you like. Even if you like variety of those, do it. Doesn't really matter. Bring some activity into your day every day. The second thing is the bigger one, the diet. And our lives are very different. We all have very different lives, very different demands, very different food habits. And often it's not just my meal or my diet. It's about all the other family members as well. And you have to just, be able to do something that fits in with everyone's routine. You can't just have a diabetic diet plan to you every day. Our life doesn't permit that.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be very open-minded and have the key principles very clear in our mind. One very basic key principle, and I'll tell you this as part of diet, is water.
Right.
Fluids. 70% of our body is made of water. When we need water, our body needs water. It's extremely important that we drink enough water throughout the day, sips of water. You can have a big amount of water in the morning, half a liter as soon as you wake up. So you've taken a lot of your water already. And then throughout the day, keep drinking sips of water. You don't really want to drink a lot of water before bed. That's not the good thing for your body. I haven't had any water all day. Let me drink 2 liters and sleep. I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
So best to drink early on in the morning and throughout the day. It's essential, crucial. Diabetes or any health problem, water is really key. Then veggies. Vegetables are really, really, really essential. You have to have minimum 5 types of vegetables in your diet every single day. Okay, and I'm not talking about chopping them up and frying them and putting a lot of masalas and cooking a proper Indian type of curry and lose out everything that beautiful vegetable has in it and think, I've eaten vegetable. Okay, that's all right. We can't do without it. But I don't think we could have 5 portions of vegetables like that. So salad, I think, is the key.
Right.
Okay, sounds okay. Whatever you like, whatever. Just keep rotating different vegetables. I'm not going to say just eating tomatoes every day is the best thing. Would be for our body. Our body needs all sorts of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. So every vegetable and fruit that the nature has made has different things in it. Some are richer in some vitamins, some minerals. Berries are richer in antioxidants, which fight the cancer. So it's important that we have a mixture, a variety of vegetables and a variety of fruits. Now, vegetables are very, very clear. No matter what health problems you have,
So
you can all eat vegetables.
You say like eating a raw vegetable is a lot more healthier than the cooked one.
So some vegetables you can't really eat raw.
Yeah.
So you can steam them, for example. But what I mean is keep the cooking in a way that you're not destroying the properties of the vegetables completely. Okay. So cooking them to an extent is okay, but you should try and have some raw vegetables, some steamed vegetables, like that. Some
roast vegetables as well.
Right. Vegetables in any form is one thing. Then the other thing that more people have confusion about, particularly with diabetes, is fruits.
Yeah.
I have been a doctor now for 24 years, and I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, well, I've got diabetes, so I can't eat fruits now, can I? Well, you definitely can eat fruits, and you should eat fruits, even if you have diabetes. You can. You can eat 10 portions of vegetables a day, but just not 10 portions of fruits a day. Okay? Lesser portions of fruits than a normal person can cope with, but fruits are really great for diabetic patients as well.
All kind of fruits, or are they like specific?
Fruits. So, the really sugary fruit.
Mango.
Is your favorite. Well, at least you don't have mango season here.
Yeah.
In India, everyone eats like 10 mangoes a day in the season. And all my diabetic patients in India used to come with like really high sugars after the mango season. But yeah, so anything like pineapple, pure sugar, anything really sweet type of fruits, you want to keep them to minimum. Okay, grapes, like the really sweet ones. You want to eat less of them, try and have a variety of fruits in your diet. Apples, melon, kiwi.
So watermelon, I think people say sometimes, watermelon is not good for diabetic patients.
small portions fine.
Okay.
If you want to eat a watermelon a day or have a watermelon glass full of watermelon juice a day, I don't think that will do any good to your sugars. So normally we say whatever fits in your hand, for example, like that, a handful is your portion, like one portion. So a child portion is very small compared to an adult's portion, for example. But 5 portions of fruit a day are fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Since we are talking about fruits, obviously, again, a lot of people, they think that, oh, having fruit is as good as having fruit juice, because I can't eat 10 oranges at one go. I can eat drink a juice of 10 oranges. So, and so I don't know. There are two different angles of looking at it. So, would you like to say anything about fruit
Absolutely,
juice and fruit?
juice. Yeah, juice is my favorite. So I do this cheat thing with my son. Okay, he is 11, and if I make him eat fruits, for example, 2 or 3 fruits cut and taken when I'm bringing him home from school, the whole school run finishes from school to home, and he's barely finished them. Okay, and then if I gave him juice of that, probably 5 seconds and it'll be gone. But does he get that benefit? He doesn't. And the closest you can get to having the benefits of fruit is to literally throw in the fruits and blend them and have that as a smoothie. Okay. Juice is you're throwing out all of the things that fill you and literally just drinking the sugar. So it doesn't take more than common sense to figure out juice is bad for you. If you're literally just drinking the squeezed sugar out of a fruit, it's not going to help you. It's just going to spike your blood sugar straight away and then down. So you're going to have a high and you're going to have a low. And it's really not going to help your diabetes in whatever way.
Right.
Diabetes, you want your sugars to go up slowly and come down slowly, which is why the foods, low GI food and things, you must have heard about them. Glycemic index basically means a food that takes longer to be absorbed and the sugar goes up slowly, comes down slowly, like your oats and things. They're good for diabetics. And juice, not good for you. Okay, so I highly recommend fruit. And if you can't, then throw them in the blender, blitz them, and have it as a smoothie with the whole of the fruit in it.
Got you.
Yeah. Sure. And so that's veg and fruit. And the other things that you need to understand with diabetes, with diet overall, is that it's good to feel hungry, but it doesn't mean you have to eat every time you feel hungry. Okay? It's a good sign to feel hungry, but eating every time you feel hungry is bad. Okay? So you could essentially, if you weren't on medication 3 times a day or insulins and things like that, you could be perfectly fine with 1 meal a day. For example, 1 proper meal a day, and then 1 meal time you can keep it, it's just for salad or just for fruit. And then you can have breakfast. That's like 3 times you've eaten in a day. You've eaten 3 times at intervals, but you've not had 2 or 3 meals, for example. So that allows you to have a lot of fruit and veg. Because if you dedicated 1 meal to just salad, for example, or just fruits, for example, constantly firefighting.
That's another problem because, especially during lunchtime, sometimes we don't eat, sometimes we eat something else, sometimes there's no fixed time as well. So I think, let's talk about kids. Obviously we, like people who have already been diagnosed with diabetes and now, like, obviously, they are doing a lot of things to control it or to reverse it. But what we should do as a parent for our kids, so that they don't suffer the same situation which we are doing now. And kids love chocolates, kids love sugar candies, and so many other things which can be harmful at later stage. And I'm sure a lot of our audience would like to know this as well, because we can't stop. We just have to, like, oh, kids are crying, let's give them something or the other just to keep them happy. So what would you like to say, how we can control the eating habits of our kids?
So I work with a dietitian um, in a hospital. And this is anecdotal, obviously, a story I'm sharing with you. And a lot of the patients, this was up north, and, generally people attended with family members and things. And she would always, when the family members said, but he is eating too many sweets or biscuits or this, but she is eating, it's like husband or wife. And this is in diabetes clinic. I worked in a specialist diabetes clinic. I was a specialty doctor in diabetes, working with Professor Taylor, Prof. Marshall, like that. So I know that there, basically, we had multidisciplinary teams. So we had input from dietitians, dietitists, everyone, consultants, obviously. So there was this one person who would say, "Stop buying it for him. Don't have it in your house."
Right.
But, well, why can't I have it for him? Well, lock it away in your locker so they don't have access to it, because when they're hungry and when they're feeling low in sugar, the first thing they're going to reach out to is sugary, unhealthy, snacky food. This is diabetics, all the patients, but the principle's the same. If your house is stocked very nicely with breakfast bars, candies, chocolates, cupcakes, donuts, all the delicious things, all the things kids want to see and eat, they will eat it. It's a bigger fight and harder to say no when you have a lot of things at home. So I think buying less or not buying is one big decision parents can make for their children. Secondly, I think parents themselves are role models. If a parent has busy drink or chocolate or cupcakes or a lot of jam on their bread every day, whatever, the child's going to want it. And you can't really then go, it's okay for me to have it, but not okay for you. So I think it's very important that as a family, you have some set of rules that this is how much, sweet we're going to have. We'll only be buying one treat a week, like that, maybe, whatever, or one treat a day. Whatever you are, you're giving 4 a day, cut down to 3, cut down to 2. Remember from my childhood, you just didn't have so much sugar around.
Exactly.
You just didn't have it. So it's so hard, because every day they have 10, 15, 20 occasions where they could easily give into sugar. Their food times in school,
especially when we go out and meet somebody, we bring, like, a box of sweets, like, chocolates, and
and there are festivals. India has festivals every month, and Indians, even though they're here, still celebrate them and still have sweets at all times. And British people generally like the chocolate. And the biggest one's Christmas. Everyone's diabetes is sky high after Christmas.
Let's go to basics. So what sugar does to kids? Because a lot of time, we say, oh, kids are like, oh, they are fine, they're active, they run around, so they are okay to have sugar. We as a parent have such attitude. Oh, they are not diabetic, so why to worry about it. So when we talk about sugary candies and biscuits and all that, what impact they do to them, and I'm sure they are fine at this stage, but what if when they turn to 40 or 35, obviously all that what they're eating now, does that have impact at, like, after that later stage, like after 15 years, 20 years?
So someone's building a house and they think it's only foundation, I'll use cheap material. My house will be beautiful. That's what it is.
Right.
That's exactly what it does. That's the foundation. The first 15, 20 years of your life, your foundation for the rest of your life. The healthier you are then, the healthier you will be. Now let me just tell you a study related to diabetes. In this context, there's a study that was done where they looked at people's diabetes control from the point of diagnosis. So there were people who had really good, really tight control from the point of diagnosis, and some people had poor control, thinking, "Oh, I've just been diagnosed, got no other complication problems. I want to try this, I want to try that." And their control was not as tight as it should have been. And then they looked 20, 30 years later. So it's a very long study, multi-center, multinational study, where they found that people who had good control early on, no matter how bad their control was later on, they still had reduced risk of complications long term, like end-point damage, like amputation, loss of vision, heart attack, stroke, diabetes-related kidney damage, damage to the back of eyes, any complications, for example, related to diabetes. Those people who had good control in the beginning had low risk until the end, no matter how the diabetes went after that. But those people who had a bad control in the beginning, even if they had better control later on, still had greater risk of complications. That was their founding years.
Brilliant.
And that study was done for a very long time, decades, multi-center, multinational. Your childhood is your foundation. Your teeth are rotten in childhood, they're rotten for life. Your eyes are bad, you get glasses in childhood, you have glasses for life. So why don't you realize you put fat in your liver as a child? That liver will never be the same for the rest of your life. Your pancreas under stress now, it will never be able to work as it is now for the rest of your life. Some damages cannot be reversed. So it's very important that the children actually are healthy right from the beginning. It's extremely important they do exercise, they drink water, they get good sleep way longer than us. We can do it 5, 6 hours. They really need 8, 9, 10, 11 hours, depending on their age. The younger they are, the more the sleep they need. So it's really essential that they eat everything like we do. They should eat veg, fruit, like us, 5 portions. But their portions are smaller, but they still eat the same portions, same amount of portions. We just have to treat them like mini adults. You can't really, you can have a lot of fat because you're active, or a lot of sugar because you're active. No, everything has to be in moderation right from the beginning.
Gotcha. So, obviously with kids, now I'm talking about like what happens to my house. So like, my kid is not eating low. Let's give him, something which he likes, pizza, pasta, or maybe Maggie, which is very favorite. Like even in our childhood, I used to eat a lot of Maggie. And a lot of these, white flour stuff, sugary stuff. And I feel like sugar is quite addictive as well. So I know it's
one of the greatest addictives that people don't even realize they're addicted to.
Yeah.
That's a bad addiction.
Yeah, definitely. So, when kids don't eat, obviously parents think that they don't have enough, they haven't consumed enough food based on their appetite. Is it something we have to be worried about, or should we focus more on healthier food rather than, even if we feel that they're eating less, although they are humans, they'll eat what
their appetite.
Their appetite is. So what would you like to say in that? Because I've seen a lot of cases. अच्छा ये नहीं है तो मैगी खा लो, पिज्जा खा लो, पास्ता खा लो, कुछ और बना देते, something which is more junk than the normal food.
There are a lot of elements to this question. It's hard to be very simplistic in answering this. I think the problem in this country is not malnutrition and underweight. We all know it. However much we don't want to accept it, that is the reality. So I'll tell you a very interesting story. I went to study day, and there was 300 doctors and nurses, all from primary care, so GPs and primary care nurses. And we had a pediatrician doing a presentation on childhood obesity. It was a day about diabetes, obesity. It was all just about diabetes and obesity. So the consultant had a photo of a boy and said, "How many of you think this child is overweight?" There were like 4 or 5 people raised their hands out of the 300 people in audience. And he showed the child's weight and BMI, and the child was obese. We all thought the child was normal weight. Then he put another picture, and he said, "How many of you think this child is underweight?" And again, probably only 10 hands went up. And this child was completely normal BMI. And it's professionals thinking that we're guilty because we're seeing overweight people right, left, and center. So we've forgotten what normal is. I see so many patients coming to me all the time. This is like almost daily occurrence, if not weekly. When you tell someone their weight and tell them they're overweight and think, are you sure, doctor? You think I'm overweight? Like, what do you think my weight should be? And you tell them, what? When I look like skinny, skin on bones, doctor? That can't be right. I must be muscle weight. I must be bone weight. You must be wrong in telling me I'm overweight. And everyone, and normal way people come and tell us, "Oh, my family's worried. They think I am malnourished or I'm underweight." We have to go, "Look, your BMI is completely normal. You're not underweight. You are the right size." So this is the problem. We are all wanting to look normal like everyone else, but majority people are overweight. So we're going to we have to be overweight to look normal nowadays.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So it's this way. Until 12 years of age, you should be able to count the child's ribs. If they've taken their top off, you should be able to literally count their ribs for the child to be normal weight. If you can't count their ribs, chances are getting into overweight zone. Which parent would like to see a child whose ribs can be counted today? You call 10 parents or 100 parents from a gathering and say that your child's normal. If we could see their ribs, they're all imagining they're under 12 years of age. And they're like, "Are you mad? Seeing ribs? That's like malnourished child to me."
Exactly, because when I was during my childhood, I was quite lean child, and my mom always used to say, like, "ये देखो हड्डी का ढांचा है."
Yeah, that's it. We don't realize that obesity is the problem. So I think often we're overfeeding the children. That's the problem.
Yeah. So, obviously, I mean, diabetes is something which is a very common issue among us, to be honest. So we'll talk a little bit more about diabetes, and for, blood pressure and cancer, we can, do it in the next episode. So when we talk about diabetes, again, there is a lot of, I would say, 2 different theories about milk, milk and milk products. Some people say milk is healthy for us, especially for child. And some people say milk is not healthy for us after a certain age, like, after 5 years of age. And so I would like to know more about what good or bad things milk does to our body. And is there a limited quantity we can consume on a daily basis, or is it like, we should stop the milk forever, or it is like, we are okay to drink as much as we can or take milk products as much as we can, and what impact, like, normally it has to our future problems, like, again, diabetes, cancer, or blood pressure or cholesterol.
Yeah. So there are a lot of health problems that can be linked to wheat and milk, for example, as common allergens. But then it's also a very big part of our diet, both wheat and milk. So it's hard to exclude either from our diet altogether. There are two types of milk as well, like A1 and A2 milk. And it's generally believed that A2 is better than A1 milk. Although I believe that majority of the milk available in England is A1.
What's the difference between A1 and A2?
So I think the difference is that the immune-mediated problems that arise with A1 are not seen so much in A2.
So A1, is it a different way of extracting the milk, or is it like a different cow altogether?
Yes, it's different breeds of cow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So basically, in terms of milk, again, people vary. Some people are perfectly fine with milk, some are not. It depends on your genetic makeup as well. But milk on its own is complete food as well. It's a balance of carbohydrates, proteins, fat, and it's got vitamins, minerals. So, if you were to exclude milk, you also have to make sure that you're getting all those things from other sources. So I think the key thing about diet is to have a healthy plate. Make sure your diet has a certain amount of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals that you need. Where you get it from is variable. So if you were to have milk and your body is okay with it, it's okay to carry on, because milk can be then cheese, yogurt, all the things that are associated with milk. If you completely exclude the whole lot of milk and milk-related products, you have to make sure that you're replacing it with something else that has got those ingredients for you. Okay. And what is the other thing? One is milk and the other?
Wheat.
That was, I heard about wheat. You asked me
So
about
milk,
something else.
I think the impact of milk in our body, in terms of because a lot of people, they're saying, oh, milk is not healthy for you after like certain age. And then people are switching on to almond milk, oat milk. And a lot of time you get these packed milk, almond milk and oat milk in the market. But again, when they are packed, and they are packed in such a way for a higher shelf life, for a year and all, I'm sure they must be included with a lot of preservatives and other things. When we talk about milk, although it may have some adverse effect to our body, but at least it's pure and fresh. It comes from an animal, and then it comes to your fridge, and it has a very short shelf life. So, I mean, I personally feel anything which has a short shelf life is much healthier as compared to something which has a longer shelf life, except the, dry seeds and grains, because they are meant to be for longer shelf life.
I don't know whether that's true about the shelf life and good, and whether they can be divided into good and bad based on shelf life. But in terms of milk, if we look at just the cow's milk, for example, which is what mostly you get here, there is also now a lot of medications and treatments given to cows. So the quality of milk is not the same as it used to be before. The process of milking the cows, pasteurization, the storage process of the milk and everything like that, that is also there. So it's not free of all the problems, because it is all large scale industry now. It's not as though you have a local farmer and you're going and getting fresh milk from them.
Yeah.
So you have to bear that in mind. But also when you're replacing it with other milks, there are dangers associated with that as well. So for example, almond milk, soy milk, oat milk, whatever it is, again, they are processed foods. And to an extent, they're all going through factories and packaging and all sorts of things, like you're saying. And not every other milk that we're replacing normal milk with has the same composition of milk. So the ingredients vary. So that will have impact on your body as well. So you have to see which, depending on your health problems and your other rest of your diet, you have to see whether it's completing the wheel, it's completing the balanced wheel for you. That's the key. And sticking to one type of milk all the time may also be not the best thing. Sometimes switching can also be good. And if you were, for example, making milk from almonds and oats and things at home, then that's different.
Yeah.
Obviously, that quality is going to be way superior than maybe any other milk that you're buying in the supermarket, for example. So having the balance right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like that milk is very unhealthy for us. It depends like how our body responds to it. If we see that milk is causing some issues, we can try reducing the quantity and see if it still works. If it doesn't, then we can quit and look for alternatives. As far as like we are taking limited quantity, it's good.
It's like the lactose intolerance thing, so wheat intolerance. Some people's bodies don't get on with those things.
Now, obviously, we have spoken quite a lot about diabetes, and I'm pretty sure that, a lot of our audience must have loved it and they must have cleared with a lot of misconceptions about diabetes. Going forward, one last question I have is, can type 2 diabetes be reversed, or is it just a myth? And if we reverse it, do we have to follow a strict dietary plan and lifestyle, or once it's reserved we can go back to I wouldn't say the perfect normal, but slightly normal life? So what's your say on this?
So I personally don't like the word reversed. When somebody has officially diagnosed with diabetes, I would like to call it more a remission than reverse. But remission essentially means a state where you're not diabetic anymore. So you could use the word reversed because it makes you feel proud, I guess, if you do that. Like I had a 26-year-old patient who turned out to be diabetic, and he was, very surprised. He shouldn't have been because he was obese, and I shouldn't say he was obese, but his BMI was in obese range is the right thing to say. And when we found out about his diet, he was drinking full sugary Coke, 3 to 5 liters of full sugary Coke a day. And we told him that this is not good, that this is how many, sachets of sugar each one of these had, each 1 liter bottle has. And he was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much sugar I was taking in. And this guy just went to gym, stopped drinking Coke altogether. For that matter, he stopped drinking any fizzy drinks, and he switched to water and started going to gym. And I saw him for I think 6-7 years, and he still hadn't gone back to being diabetic again. So you could call it reversed, or you could call it remission.
So apart from quitting these fizzy drinks and gym, like he hasn't changed much with his normal eating.
So he just decided to have a healthy life. Right. He was just very shocked to hear that his life insurance will go up, his health insurance will go up. He won't be covered for diabetes related problems, and he had to now declare to his work boss that he was diabetic and things like that. I think the circumstances he was working under, he had to declare it for some reason. So this guy was like, my God, I can't have this. I'm only 26. And he's just like, I'm going to change lifestyle for good. And that's it. He was a totally different person. And he was very happy. He felt more energized. And he was like, I was thinking, why have I been feeling so tired for the last 6 months, doctor? Just because you're diabetic.
So, and then there's something about fermented food, which we talk about, which has a lower GI index. And, it's always good to have fermented food if you're diabetic.
So low GI index food is good because, like I said, in diabetic people, it's better to raise the sugar slowly and bring it down slowly. But again, I won't recommend eating fermented food every day, 3 times a day. Everything has to be balanced.
Okay.
You have to have a variety of diets, variety of meals. So have that as part of your diet as well, but don't make it the only
Okay.
part of your diet.
All right. And what about, like, I've heard somewhere that, like, if you are eating bread in your breakfast or something, it's best to freeze them. And then,
Turns it into lower GI.
yeah, it turns into, so,
Rice, bread,
yeah,
the very
so all his starchy food,
things.
whatever you eat, it's best to freeze them and then, heat them and eat them. So, how effective that,
So there are some
practice is.
studies that show that lowers their so it then is releasing sugar again over a longer period. So it's low GI. Some benefit, but it's individual preference. I think. Would you want to do that with your everyday food?
Mm.
Because obviously there's other nutrients in food as well, not just carbohydrate. The carbohydrate element may turn into a favorable thing, but is freezing and reheating every food going to preserve the nutrition, the other elements,
Yeah.
minerals, vitamins? They are more sensitive. So,
Okay.
are you destroying them at
Right.
some point, or
But
depends how you're
even
doing
when we
it.
freeze and, reheat it, although it release sugar at a low level, but eventually it will still release the same amount of sugar, isn't it? Instead of like 3 hours, it will release in 5 hours, but it still will be the same amount of sugar added to your body.
As far as I understand,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So
I don't think the carbohydrate content will go down.
yeah. So eventually you're still giving the same level of sugar to your body. So it's better to replace it with like something like other grains which release less
Which
sugar.
are low GI in
Low
the
GI.
first place.
Yeah. Like
That's
quinoa or or some other grain like
That's more of a
summer rice.
common sense approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last, which HbA1c. Okay, so that is something which is very common, way of measuring your blood sugar level over the period of last 3 months.
That's a more reliable one.
And then we have like other methods like when we are pricking. And so how HbA1c detects your 3 months history. So
Magic.
what's some
Harry Potter one. That's what it is. No, it's not. So basically, we have some cells in our blood called red blood cells, RBCs, and their lifespan is about 120 days. So they carry this glycosylated hemoglobin, which is what we're measuring. So if they have, they've had this glycosylated hemoglobin over this period, when we measure it in there, that's why we get the average. Because the RBCs die by that period, and newer RBCs come over, so their life cycle. So we measure it over their life cycle
Right.
to see what was the average they've had. That's the trick. Science can do some amazing things.
Absolutely, because it wasn't getting into my head either that just by taking that sugar.
It's to do with the RBC's red blood cells lifespan.
And sorry, I'm asking too many questions here.
All right.
Well, so this is like which I had in my mind. So basically, when I was checking my blood sugar level, I was monitoring my blood sugar level. So recently, I observed that after 2 hours after my meal, my blood sugar level goes back to normal around 7.2, 7.5. But when I do the measurements in the morning, the fasting sugar is always high. So even though, let's say I've taken a meal at like 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock I'll measure, it'll go to 7.5, right? But in the morning when I measure, even though I haven't eaten anything, and it goes to 9.5, 9. So that even I haven't eaten, I'm quite confused. How does that extra sugar comes into my body?
You're not telling me you're eating at night. No, I was just joking. I was just joking. So it's good that you're not eating at night. But basically, again, this comes to this homeostasis. If your body is blood sugar's going down and you're not going to eat for 12 hours, your body's got to release the sugar from the storage house. Glycogen has to convert into glucose or other forms of sugar that, we have stored. Everything has to be converted, even the, fat can be converted back. So really, this is why our body is releasing some sugar back into our body. That's where it's coming from. It's not what you've eaten overnight. It's because our body needs it. So the hormones are at play, other hormones in our body that are saying, and basically early hours of the morning, there's a little steroid that's kicked into our body every day, like around 4 a.m.-ish. So because there's a steroid injected in our body, and there's a need for this blood glucose to go up, or the blood glucose goes up as in response to this. So when you've woken up a couple of hours later, you're going to see the sugars are higher.
Right. So even though it was 7, which is still on the higher side, so my body doesn't need more sugar because it already has that level of sugar between 6
So it
and
might
7.
be going down later on. And if it didn't go down, for example, it was just at 7, for example, until that steroid dose kicked in,
Okay.
it'll go up from there.
Right. Gotcha.
So yes, even if you didn't eat all night, your sugars can go up in the morning because of the enzymes and hormones in our body.
Yeah, because that was a very that confused me, because when I tested, I'm not eating, but still my sugar is going up.
And there's also other factors. For example, certain medications, they work for 6, 8 hours, 12 hours, for example. So if you're taking them during the day, then the medication effects is wore off at night. There's nothing there bringing the sugars down afterwards. It's like that. There's also the same with insulin, for example. Some people take shorter acting insulins. The sugar's fine in the evening and they wake up in the morning and it's high. So we give them a long acting dose at night to deal with the morning. That's it. So my sugars are high in the morning. Why are you increasing my nighttime dose, doctor? Because your morning insulin will deal with your daytime insulin. It will work for the following 8 to 10 hours, whereas the nighttime dose will work on the following 8 to 10 hours, which means including the morning.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Chitra. And so
I just had to tell you something, didn't I, from our chat earlier, which is very important if we have got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Which was your question about, okay, doctor, I have diabetes. It's not very well controlled. I'm on medication for that, but I'm very motivated and I'm making lots of changes. I'm changing diet, I'm joining gym and doing everything. I don't need my medications, ditch them, make the lifestyle change, go to the doctors, check your blood sugar a few months later, gone up. Magic! So I would really like to request your viewers that if you were going to make lifestyle changes, have a chat with your doctors. If you're on medications that can drop your blood glucose suddenly, then be prepared for it and treat the hypos and things like that. But do not stop the tablets. Do not stop them like, I'm making changes, I don't want the tablets. No. Make the changes, monitor your sugars. As the levels are coming down, as your HbA1c is improving, slowly reduce the dosage of medications in liaison with your doctor, under their advice, under their guidance. Don't just stop them.
Right.
That would be the best thing.
So
gradually come off them, and if your lifestyle changes have great enough impact, you may be able to come off them altogether, or you may have a dose reduced, or you may have number of tablets reduced. The lifestyle changes will always help, but they may not be sufficient to get rid of the medication, so don't stop them first.
So I hope you all have enjoyed today's show, and we will come back again with Chitra ji in a few weeks' time, and we'll talk about other complicated medical conditions like blood pressure and again, cancer, which is growing very, very big now and very concerning these days. All right. Thank you very much. And yeah, and if you have any views, any feedback about our show, please do put it on our comments, and we will definitely try to respond to you. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. It's been a pleasure.